The most successful people, what they focus on is not time management, it's priority management. They manage their priorities. They get really good at the things that matter every single day. Now, how can you apply this again? Well, some of the most successful people out there, yes, they have a to-do list, but you're not going to get through that 200, 300, whatever amount of items that grows on your to-do list every single day. But what are the 3 or 4 things on that list that will give you a big win? So when you came home at the end of the day and somebody asked you, how was your day? You're like, I crushed it. I won today because I got those few things done. Another thing I noticed with working with high performers, high mental achievers, is they have a not to-do list. They're very clear about the things they're not going to spend time with because you have to say no to good to say yes to great.
Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because running the business is hard, and waking up every day and getting to work when you're all by yourself is hard. And the thing that saved me, that continues to inspire me, motivate me, give me hope, inspiration, ideas, is looking at the stories of people who've done a lot more than me. And I learn strategies, I get motivation, and it gets me to believe in myself to go off and attack the day. And so I hope this video inspires you to do the same as well. So today let's learn from one of the best, Jim Kwik, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
There's a great book, which I recommend many, as you've noticed, Good to Great by Jim Collins, basically saying that if you're tired and burned out, maybe you're saying yes to way too many things. And it's like having too many browsers open on your computer. Even if you minimize them, it's still taking up memory. It's still taking up energy. It's still taking up some unconscious focus and awareness. And you wonder why you're tired all the time, or you wonder why you can't focus. So you want to say no to a lot of things so you can say yes to the things that matter. Part of your filter could be heck yes or heck no. If you get an opportunity and somebody comes to you and say, hey, what about this? Or hey, do you want to grab a dinner here? Or what about this opportunity? If you don't feel full on that it's a heck yes, maybe you should be saying heck no. And you want to say no more than you say yes. And as you become more and more successful, that becomes a challenge because you have opportunity stress, right? The more you grow, the more you succeed, the more opportunities and offers that come your way. But you want to remain focused. And how do you do this? Well, I always suggest to people, start with this. The most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. When you look at a word like priorities, it's only been plural, like multiples, over the past 3 decades, the past few decades. Prior to that, it was always singular. It was always priority. Priority is the one thing that matters in your life, or in your work, or in your relationship, or in your health. But as we grow, right, and technology, and we have all these demands, everything becomes important. It's kind of like somebody who's reading and they're highlighting everything, so the book glows in the dark. That's not what you want to do, because if you make everything important when you're learning and you're studying and you're thinking in your life, then nothing becomes important.
Rule number 2 is become limitless.
This is the key to become limitless. And limitless is not about being perfect. It's about advancing and progressing beyond what you believe is possible. Does that make sense? Now, there are 3 areas you have to unlimit in order to reach more of your power, reach more of your potential, reach more of your profitability, your peace. So imagine everybody, if it's about advancing, I'm gonna turn this into a workshop, is that okay? All right, imagine there's an area of your life where you're not advancing. Like, be honest with yourself. You don't have to share it, but what area of your life do you feel like you're not progressing in? Like you feel stuck in your relationship, in your personal health, in your finances. What area, if you're honest, are you stuck? Your memory, maybe, your focus, your reading speed, right? Where do you feel stuck? Where do you feel like you're in a box? So just imagine a box, right? And a box is 3-dimensional, right? 3 dimensions, those 3 dimensions are the 3 forces that contain that box and that keep you stuck. Those are the same 3 forces that if you expanded it, your box would expand, right? You would become more limitless. And so those three forces I represent by three circles. So if you imagine three circles, this is, what do they call this? A Venn diagram, right? Venn diagram. These are represented by three M's. And these are the three M's that will change your life and change your learning forever. Now, the first M, or one dimension of that box that keeps you contained and actually could unleash your power, is your mindset. Now, you hear this a lot. Vishen was talking about growth mindset yesterday, but this is where you don't think something is fixed, right? People come to me all the time and they'll say, I'm too old. Or they'll come to me, Jim, say, Jim, I can't wait for you to talk. I have trouble remembering people's names. And I always say, stop. If you fight for your limits, you get to keep them. Does that make sense? If you fight for the limits, they're yours. And so in your mindset, these are how I define mindset, because there are a lot of speakers on mindset, and I could put people in different boxes and categories. So that's what I do when I learn, because I need to know, what areas where I need improvement. Mindset is, I'm defining as your attitudes and assumptions about something. Your attitudes, assumptions about something. So your mindset could be your attitudes, assumptions about money, right? If your attitudes, assumptions about money, like you don't feel like you're worth a certain amount, you think that money is evil, whatever it is, will that keep you in that box? Yes or yes? Yes or yes? Yes, right? Because your behaviors are going to be determined by your beliefs. You write this down. All behavior is belief-driven. All behaviors are belief-driven. How many of you want to create a new result in your life? Raise your hand. A new result. To create that result, you need to do a new behavior, correct? It's not going to happen by itself, new behavior. In order to do a new behavior, you need a new belief that allows that behavior to be possible, right? Because your brain is this incredible supercomputer, and your beliefs, your self-talk, are the programs it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to. Does that make sense? Because you can learn a great technique on how to remember names, but if your mindset is, I'm too old, I'm not smart enough, you're still gonna be stuck in that box. And I'll even have my goal up here, I'll have my goal here, and I'll say this is my goal. What's the mindset I need for that goal? What's my purpose, energy, small, simple steps, my motivation? But you can have limitless mindset, limitless motivation, and still be stuck because you still have to activate the third M, which are your methods. So let's say you have limitless mindset, you believe it's possible, you believe you deserve it, you believe you're capable of it, you have limitless motivation, you could still not have the life you desire or deserve because you're not using the proper methods.
Rule number 3 is apply the 80-20 rule.
What do you want to do more of? What are you currently doing, but you want to do more of? Maybe it happens, if we're talking about your brain, maybe it's eating more of those brain foods, right? Those avocados, the blueberries, the wild salmon, right? Maybe it's, hey, I'm already meditating and I want to do more meditating. I want to spend, instead of 10 minutes, I want to spend 15 minutes. Or maybe I want to do it one more time a day. I want to do it twice a day. You're doing more of it, right? You're increasing the duration or you're increasing the frequency of something. Maybe it is journaling. Maybe it is writing. You're thinking about your goal. In order to create something new, you want to be able to do more of it. And what I'm thinking about is the 80-20 rule. We've talked about it in the past. We talk about it in our book, Limitless, the Pareto's principle. What is the 20% of the things that's giving you 80% of the returns, 80% of the benefits? Maybe it's exercising, right? As your body moves, your brain grooves. So you're going to make a decision right now. Maybe I want to do it more often. Maybe instead of 3 times a week, I want to up it to 4 times a week. And this is also talking about the power of just one more, as that episode we did with Ed Milet, the power of doing a little bit more. That if you increase something just 1%, you get better at 1% a day, just 1% compounded exponentially over 365 days is about a 37 increase, a multiplier of 37. That means 1.01, which is an increase of just 1% compounded over 365 days. That equals a 37 multiplier. Wow. What can you apply that to? You want to apply that to your income, to your influence, to your intelligence, right? So that's the power of adding just a little bit more.
Rule number 4 is believe.
I grew up, some of you know, with learning challenges, very severe. When I was 5 years old in kindergarten class, I had a very bad fall, had traumatic brain injury, rushed to the hospital, and my parents, the way they describe it, said I was never the same, meaning that before I was as a kid, very playful, very curious, very energized, but I became extremely closed down and shut down. I had very poor focus. I couldn't remember anything. My teachers would repeat themselves over and over again, and then I learned to just play along and pretend to understand, but I didn't really understand. It took me 3 years longer just to learn how to read. And it was just, it's like pretty traumatic as a child. When they passed around that book, do you remember that? And you had to read out loud, and every single time that book got closer, I would go out of my mind. I think that's where a lot of fear of public speaking came from, is we learned it, right? Because I would get the book, and honestly, these words meant nothing to me, and I would be so embarrassed, I would just pass it on to the next person. When I was 9 years old, I was struggling so badly. I didn't get the lesson. I was slowing down the class. You could tell the teacher was giving extra attention, but the other kids started to tease me for it, and the teacher came to my defense and pointed out that I was different. But all I remember her doing, she pointed at me from the whole class and said, "That's the boy with the broken brain." And that label became my limit. It was a good intention, right? But adults in general have to be very careful with our external words, because they become a child's internal words. You get that? Like for me, like where it manifested every time I did badly on a test, which was like all the time. Every time I wasn't picked for sports, which was all the time, I would say, oh, because I have the broken brain, right? And that became my inner self-talk. That's why I started with belief first, because if you believe you can or can't, either way, you're right. Because all behavior is belief-driven. If you believe you can or believe you can't, either way, what? Henry Ford said that, right? If you believe you can or believe you can't, either way, you're right, you're correct. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. Is that true? If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. Then they become yours, right?
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is use the PI technique.
I created a technique years ago, maybe 25 plus years ago, where I say that improving your memory is as easy as pi. Pi. Just write down this word, P-I-E. Now, what does the P stand for? The P stands for place. We remember things when they're stored in a specific place that we're familiar with. So this is the location, the place. The I in pi stands for imagination. So it's not just location, but it's your imagination. We tend to remember things that we see. We remember faces. We maybe forget the names, but we remember what we saw, which is the image of the face or the image of the person. So to remember something better, you have the place, you have the image, and then the E in pi stands for entwine. Entwine. What does that mean? Entwine means you're going to put them together. You're going to associate them together. And what are you entwining? The place and the image, right? When you understand how your memory works, you could work your memory. And that's what I say is learning and improving your memory is as easy as pi. Place, image, and entwine. Really, you could look at it as place is location, imagination, and what? What's the last one? That's E is really the entwining, association. Those are the 3 keys to a better memory. So we turned it into a technique.
Rule number 6 is develop grit.
We've talked about previously about mindset and about the importance of having a growth mindset. And I always talk about the second G for me is grit.
And these are the 3 Gs of the superhero.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And I think having a powerful mindset, being unstoppable, or just having the ability to go and succeed, whatever success is for you, you have to be growing, because if you're not growing, then you're backsliding, right? But you also need a level of grit. And I think grit, just like growth, is a muscle.
It's something that you need to sharpen through challenge, because through the challenge you get all the change that comes from it. I would say that if I'm effective having an impact on stage, and we all have a stage of our life, whether it's on a physical stage or just going through our day, that I challenge my grit and my ability to persist. I feel like that the most successful people on the planet that having the level of impact that they want to have to go through challenges.
Rule number 7 is break bad habits.
The other powerful thing you could do is doing less of something. Maybe you're doing something right now that's not yielding you the result in your life, in your relationship, in your brain health, right, in your business. And you want to just cut back a little bit, hack away at the unessential. So what are you doing right now that you want to do less of? Maybe it is binge watching your favorite streaming show. Maybe you want to cut back a little bit and spend 30 minutes less, one less episode a day. Maybe it happens to be staying in bed a little bit. Maybe you're spending too much time in bed and you want to be able to get out of bed more quickly and you spend less time doing that. Maybe you want to spend less time procrastinating. What is the habit or the routine, the behavior you're currently doing, but you'll get benefit by just hacking away and reducing it? You don't have to eliminate it, but you're reducing it. So maybe you want to reduce, maybe you're eating some sugar here or there, and it's not the best brain food, certainly. It has detrimental effects. Maybe you want to reduce your sugar intake. Maybe it's you're quick to anger and you want to spend less time getting angry. What are you already doing that's not empowering you to the next level of life or your next level of learning, and you want to do less of? All right. So take a moment and write that down.
Rule number 8 is stop comparing yourself to others.
How do you take the feedback constructively without sacrificing your authenticity?
I believe we could have everyone has a to-do list, right? And I think we should work like really focused and relentlessly on building a not to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
Certain things that you don't want to, put your energy towards. It's easy to say, don't compare yourself to others. But part of how we identify ourselves is how we stand out, and how we fit in, right? And interesting, as a child thinking about it, I haven't really thought about it, but, I desire to fit in, but we also have this desire to also stand out. When it comes to caring what other people think, I really do believe fundamentally, how we present ourselves, it takes a lot of energy, right? Like, it's like all this energy we sometimes put into the image we want to put out there, right? And then there's this more energy also put into the person that we're afraid people will, we fear people are going to see. And then maybe there's another energy body like ourselves. So it's like our energy is split like 3 different places, and people wonder why they feel burnt out or they just feel exhausted, all the time. And when it comes to fueling yourself, if we fuel our life with the opinions and expectations of those around us, both positive and negative, I'll say it on both sides, then we're going to probably run out of gas, right? Because it's not very sustainable. And, it's nobody has the right necessarily to define who we are, right? And I think that it's easy to say, but the only opinion about ourselves and our dreams, that counts is ourselves. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we let the noise of other people's opinions and expectations distort our own reality. It subverts our own thoughts. It drowns out our own true voice of who we are. And I'm not saying we don't learn from other people and get mentors, but owning that we are, we and we alone are 100% responsible for our life. And so it's not easy. There's a lot of things are very simple, but they're also that difficult. And so comparison is a challenge, because when we overthink or we have self-judgment, I really feel like we talk about it in the book, like digital depression, where we're constantly comparing ourselves to the highlight trailer of, the people there. And sometimes, the grass is greener on the other side because of the filter they're using, or there's a lot of artificial turf online also as well. But the truth is it's greener, where we water it and where we nurture it, and what we nourish flourishes, right? So, my thing is, because it's easy, as you build following and everything, to really feel like that's life.
for me, honestly, social media, it's not because I'm so enlightened. It stresses me out, honestly. So I spend, very less and less time over the years on it. But I would say if you're going to use comparison, the person we should be comparing ourselves to is, just ourselves, who we were yesterday, or maybe comparing yourself to the best version of yourself. It's not about being perfect. It's about progress, right? It's about the consistent effort that you bring every single day.
Rule number 9 is spend time in nature.
What I do is really simple. When I'm traveling, I'm staying at the hotel right down the street. Some of you I saw. First thing I do is I go out and I try to get the 4 elements in my life the first 30 minutes of the day. All right, the first 30 minutes of the day, I'm thinking about the elements. Now, the ancients believed that these 4 elements of air, water, fire, and earth made up everything in existence, right? And so I want to infuse my life with those elements. And the great thing about these elements is they're free, right? And so the first thing I do is I go outside and I want to get some earth on me, right? And so some of you I saw walking out from my hotel room, there's all the grass out there, and I took off my shoes and I just wanted to get grounded. Because I feel like sometimes when we're frantic throughout the day, we're going really fast, we kind of lose our foundation. And there's certain health benefits, certainly, to being connected to the earth. Some of you are familiar with like pulse electromagnetic field therapy and such, but this is free, just getting grounded. And then from there, what's important is you're getting sunlight. If you have sleep issues, how many of you have challenges with your sleep? Raise your hand. How important is sleep to your brain? A little bit or a lot? A lot, right? And one of the best things you can do to get better night's sleep is to reset your circadian rhythm. And what does it is light. All right, so even if it's hazy outside, getting out in the sunlight 10, 15 minutes first thing in the morning helps you to sleep at night. All right, just your eyes are the only part of your brain that's outside of your skull, right? And it helps you to be able to reset your rhythms. And we're biochemical. You think about dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. It's these neurochemicals that you turn on to be able to do the things you need to do that day.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is take small steps.
In school also, there was only one other Asian, and he was 1 year ahead of me, and he was valedictorian. He was head of the debate team. He messed one question on his SATs. He was so upset, and he retook it to get a perfect score. And then I'm coming in after that, and I'm like the opposite side of the bell curve. Right. And, and then pressure from family and self-expectations, but I'm driven. So I have my reasons, pleasurable and painful, that drive me every single day. And after you do it for so long, you just don't know any other way. But that's the P in the formula. And then what I did was like scientific method. If I was going to build the ultimate human being who's motivated all the time without fail, is reason enough? Like if someone has a deep enough reason, are they always going to be motivated? Is there any exceptions? And I was like, yes, the E is missing. They could be missing energy, meaning that a lot of people could be so tuned into their reason and know why it's important to work out every day or to read every day or you name it, right? But they ate a lot of crappy food and they're in a food coma. That might keep them from working out, or they didn't sleep the night before. Not having the proper level of vitality, physical and mental vitality, could keep you from being motivated. And then I went back into my thought experiment. Okay, the person has deep reasons. They feel it for wanting to build this business or have that great relationship or that great body. They have unlimited energy. Are they 100% every single time going to be motivated? And I was like, no, there's an exception here. There's something missing. S3. Because, and I'll tell you what S3 is in a moment, but they could have that thing too big in their head. Like, oh, I'm gonna build an entertainment company. But they're not motivated because it's too big, right? Or it's confusing, right? And so a confused mind doesn't do anything. So S3 stands for a small, simple step. I realize that somebody's not motivated. They can have the reason, they can have the energy, but if they can't break it down into something actionable, because it's this big monolith, a perfect relationship. I want to meet my soulmate and just live happily ever after, right? I want to have the perfect body. I want to build this $1 million company. then that could be too intimidating or too confusing or unclear, and people never take the action. So a small, simple step, and breaking it down into what's the smallest task you could do right now where you can't fail, that's going to give you progress.
I want to talk about really accepting yourself and acknowledging yourself. Focusing on your own achievements, no matter how small, is a wonderful way to give you a surge of confidence, right? Little by little, it adds up to a lot. It's a wonderful way to actually drown out the negativity, the criticism that comes either from self or from others. And so in this lesson, I want to talk about different ways that we can acknowledge ourselves. Now, when I'm talking about acknowledging ourselves, again, whatever we celebrate, we get more of. In fact, that's a rule in behavioral science. Whatever you reward, you reinforce. Does that make sense? Whatever you reward, you reinforce, and you're going to get more of. It's just like if you have children or you have pets, whatever behavior you reward, you're more likely to get more of. Because whatever you reward and you honor and you acknowledge and even micro-celebrate in yourself, you're telling yourself like, yeah, you start seeing yourself in a different light, right? After a while, you're not having to read, you just are a reader. For example, we know that for all of you who are going through our quick reading program here in the Kwik Brain universe, in the beginning, it's like, oh, I hate to read. Reading is a chore. It puts me to sleep. It's not something I enjoy doing. But after a few times doing it consistently, you're like, I am a reader. It changes your belief about yourself. So you're acknowledging, and that acknowledgement helps to drown out the negativity, the negative self-talk, the critic that we have inside and the critics we have on the outside.
How many of you have been the opposite? You read something, you get to the end of the page, and then you forgot what you just read. Look around. And you go back and you reread it, and you still don't know what you just read. Right? And that's a big problem, right? Because you're wasting your most valuable asset, which is your time. And the reason why all the speakers here give 100% is because we know your time is valuable. Like, I want to make this session so valuable when you leave, you're like, I would have came and paid just for this one talk. You know what I mean? Because I know what it's like when I first learned these skills. I traveled around the world. I bought every audio program, audio cassette. No, I'm dating myself, but it's like, but I bought all these programs because that's the thing that's gonna help me be able to grow the most. And so on the right side, the 3 questions I obsess about to get the most out of my reading or listening to a podcast or anything else, I ask myself these 3 questions. I ask myself, how can I use this? Now, it's so basic, but I like to make the things that are gonna give you the highest return, I wanna make them as simple as possible so you do it. How can I use this? And this is your creativity. You're listening to me as I speak here and all the other speakers, and you're asking, how can I use this? Because you have a dominant question you ask all the time, and it's been imprinted on you since you were a child, right? And so for me, growing up as the boy with the broken brain, I would be very introverted, very shy, and my superpower back then was being invisible, right? Because I didn't want to be seen or heard because I didn't feel like I was enough. And that's just what my reality was. But my imagination would kick in all the time because I would watch people and observe them and ask, why is that person so smart? Why do I have to work 3 times harder to do worse than this person, right? And the question I would ask all the time was, how can I make this better? Because I was obsessed. And the key to reading comprehension is asking more questions. If you read a page in a book, get to the end and not get anything out of it, it's because you're not asking questions, because questions are the answer. You write that on the left side. Questions are the answer because ask and you shall receive. And so that's all thinking is. When you really break down functionally what thought and thinking is, when you're in a corner thinking to yourself, you're asking questions and then you're answering them. And you probably are like, is that true? Notice you had to ask a question to be able to think about that, right? And so on the right side, I'm thinking about questions like, how can I use this? And this is like, oh, there's one way I could use it, another way, another way. The second question I obsess about, and I would capture it on the right side to be able to, when you're taking notes throughout today and the rest of your life, on the right side I would say, why must I use this? Because here's the thing, the biggest lie in the personal development industry is that knowledge is power. It is. It's just you feel like you got points because you signed up for a seminar or a webinar, you bought a book and it sits on your shelf, and it becomes shelf help instead of self-help because it just sits there, right? But it doesn't become, the truth is, what people don't tell you is all the podcasts, coaching, conferences, online programs, none of it works unless you work, right? Is that fair to say? Like you can't read a book on doing like push-ups and get benefit from that. It just doesn't work, right? So you have to do the work. So I'm asking myself, how can I use this? And I'm coming up with all these ideas. That's the creativity part. And then I'm asking, why must I use this? Because if it's not a must, you're not gonna do it because you have plenty of other things to do. Is that fair? Because there's a success formula, you capture on the left side of your page, head, heart, hands. You could think about things in your mind, set goals in your head and affirmations, KPIs, your objectives, but if you're not acting with your hands and you're procrastinating, raise your hand if you ever procrastinated before. Right, all of us. If there's a gap between your head and your hands, check in with the second H, which is your heart. Right? The emotion. We do things emotionally. We are emotional creatures. We're not logical, we're biological. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, we're this chemical soup, and so we want to be able to activate that. So head, heart, hands, another way of putting it are our eyes. Information, that's good, great, but sometimes you can listen to a podcast, it's a lot of information, but there's no inspiration to use it. Fair? But sometimes you can listen to a speaker or learn something and it's inspiring, but you don't know what to do, right? Is that fair? So you have information, you have inspiration, and then you have implementation, where you're doing it. And I feel like when you get all three I's together, you have the most powerful I, which is integration. That's my goal for all of you, is that when you read something, you listen to something, you learn something, it becomes part of who you are. It's integrated. Here, here, and here. And then you have an alignment, and how it performs is it looks like magic to people. When somebody is aligned and they're in their element, it looks like it's effortless. These flow states, it's powerful. It's three parts to it that I focus on. How many of you have ever been in a zone? And that's how it is when I'm reading. Like, people think that just because our program's called Kwik Brain and Kwik Learning and Kwik Reading, it's frantic fast. It's not at all. It's just, there's a piece to it. It's like somebody who's fit and has strategies. If they have to climb a mountain, it looks like it's effortless because they've just done the work and they have strategy and they have tools to be able to do so. And somebody who maybe doesn't have those resources, it's more effort. Is that fair? So actually learning how to do these things, it's easier. Like when I read a book, I still read a book a day. It's just part of my practice. It's part of my mental hygiene. And I feel like it's the number one exercise because reading is to your mind like exercise is to your body. And some of you are already doing this, so I'm preaching to you, so I'm gonna show you how to do it better. But those of you who aren't on the other spectrum reading at all, the average person reads like 2 books a year. Now, if you're reading like more than that, that means somebody's reading a lot less, right? On the other side. But it's the best exercise for your brain. People ask me all the time, how do I keep my brain young and how do I keep it energetic? And as I grow older, reading. But the problem is a lot of people don't indulge in it because they're not good at it. And I wouldn't be playing a lot of golf if I was horrible at it all the time. But in psychology, they have something called the confidence-competence loop. That the more competent you get at something, the more confident you get at it. And then the confidence will make you do it more, and you get more confidence, and then it cycles through in positive momentum, right? And you have examples of that in your own life. So what I'm asking about here, the second part, is the inspiration, is why must I use this? And you know what a question I ask a lot of is like, who's counting on me to win today? You know what I mean? First, because some of you, and I bring this up because some of you really will do more for other people than you will for yourself. So knowing that about yourself, self-awareness is a superpower, then tap into that. You don't have to change it, tap into it. Who's counting on me to like be at my best? And then you're more likely to do it. And the reason I know this is because when I was driven so much, it was really my family who I wanted to make proud. Like we all have our reasons, right? And one of my favorite books, I'm gonna probably give you 12 of them, in this conversation, is Start With Why. It's a must-read book by Simon Sinek. And you want to start with your why because reasons reap results. Reasons reap results. And even remembering people's names, if you don't have a reason to remember their name, you don't. Like, how many of you have trouble remembering people's names? Raise your hand. See, this is the thing. You don't remember everyone's name, but you sure as heck don't forget everyone's name either, right? So there's always, genius leaves clues. You can write that down. Genius leaves clues. There's always a method behind the magic. And I bet you the names you remember are people that you have some kind of intention. You're attracted to that person. They could be good for your business, right? There's some kind of motivation that's there. So find your motivation in your reading, because if you're not motivated, you're not gonna read very well.
How to smash procrastination. And when I say that word, does it make you cringe? Is there an area of your life, something that you know you should do, but you're having trouble getting yourself to do it? Getting yourself to study, getting yourself to class, getting yourself to write that report or do that research paper. Is there some area of your school, of your learning, where you're procrastinating? You're putting it off, even though you know you should not do it, but you still do it. Maybe if it's not in school, it's in your personal life. You're putting off working out or having your brain power smoothie. But imagine, I want you to think about one thing that if you did it, it would make your life better. Like you need to do it, but you're putting it off. One way of overcoming procrastination is putting it off. Procrastinating. If you're so good at procrastinating, then procrastinating, and do it now. And it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke, but really, use your great skill at putting things off to put off putting things off and do it now. Because I believe that if you can't get yourself to do action, then life doesn't change. You see my shirt here. Knowledge by itself is not power, but knowledge time action gives you so much power, the power to make things better. So do the things that are hard, and then life gets easier. If you just do the easy things, which are procrastinate, then life gets very, very hard. So first, put it off. So I'm gonna walk you through my morning routine. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I have a process to remember my dreams. Now, you're like, Jim, why do you wanna remember your dreams? The reason why is often as you spend your day learning and working to solve problems in your work, in your life, and everything else, when you sleep, your mind doesn't stop. Your unconscious mind is still working on those problems, and you come up with incredible insights and solution. The challenge is in the morning, most people don't remember their dreams. So we teach a process on how to do that. The second thing I do after I wake up is I get out of bed and I make my bed. You're like, Jim, why is that good for your brain? 2 reasons. Number one, clean environment is important for you. Like, you know, when you clean off your desktop, you clean up your office, your bedroom, you have a clearer mind. The second reason why is I want to start my day with success, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So you start with excellence. Take 2 minutes, make your bed, and it's really great because when you come home at the end of the day, you come back full circle back to success. The third thing I do is I drink a lot of water. Your brain is mostly water, 80% water, and a lot of people dehydrated. You use so much water, and it's so important for your brain to be hydrated. The challenge is you lose a lot of water when you're sleeping, so I super hydrate first thing in the morning. Then what do? I brush my teeth. You're like, Jim, why do you brush your teeth? How's that good for your brain? What you do is you brush your teeth with your opposite hand. It's been shown that by using your opposite hand to eat or to brush your teeth, as your body moves, your brain grooves. As you brush your teeth with your opposite hand, it actually creates more neural connections inside your brain. So the next thing I do is I do a deep breathing exercise. The other thing besides hydration that's good for your brain is oxygen. A lot of people get tired and they have brain fog, and what do they do with their mental fatigue? And I would say the number one thing is get oxygen in your body. And here's the thing, your brain is only 2% of your body weight on average, but it consumes 20% of the nutrients and the oxygen. So it's so important to do deep breathing exercises. We talk about that in our programs also as well. What's the next thing I do in my morning routine? I make myself some tea, and I make what I call a brain tea. It has gotu kola, ginkgo biloba, it has lion's mane, it has some essential fatty acids that are there, really good ingredients that boost my focus and my memory. Now, as I'm drinking the tea, what am I doing? I'm actually journaling, because if you want to boost your brain power, it's important to take notes. And I do a whole process where I teach you the best ways of taking notes and making notes to be able to plan out your day, and also to be able to write the things that you're most grateful for. So I go through this gratitude process in my journal because I feel like your brain really thrives on gratitude. Because if you can't appreciate the things that you already have, you're not going to be given the things that you really want. So why do I focus on gratitude first thing in the morning? Well, I have my vision board and then my goals, everything that I want, but I also have a gratitude board, the things that I'm most grateful for in my life. And if you want to feel instant gratitude, just count all the things in your life that you have that money can't buy. Gratitude is also good for your brain. There was a cover story on the cover of Time magazine on these super nuns who are living 80, 90, and above. And I want to find where's their longevity coming from? Half of it had to do with their gratitude, emotional faith. The other half had to do with they were lifelong learners. So those two things combined are very, very powerful. After that, I'm drinking my tea, I'm writing in my journal, because a lot of geniuses write in journals, right? Leonardo da Vinci, Einstein, Marie Curie, all these journals, and they want to do these studies, say, are geniuses writing in journals because they're geniuses, or is it the opposite? It's because they're writing in journals that they become these incredible geniuses of their field. When I'm done drinking my brain tea and writing my journal, the next thing I do is I do some just morning exercises. This is not my exercises for the day, but 3 or 4 minutes of high intensity workout to kind of get your heartbeat going. Because here's the thing, whatever's good for your heart is usually good for your head. Because when I'm getting my heartbeat going, what's happening is I'm getting more blood flow to my brain and more oxygen, and that's very, very important. So what do I do next? I make my brain power smoothie. And you're like, Jim, what's a brain power smoothie? There's certain foods that are really great for your brain. And I teach people how to memorize these foods. And what we do is I just put them all in a blender. So certain foods like blueberries, right? I call them brain berries. There's things like avocado, very good for the brain also as well. Obviously hydration, we're going to talk about all those ingredients in another video. So as I'm drinking my brain power smoothie, what am I doing? I'm reading, right? 20, 30 minutes a day of dedicated reading, because leaders are readers. And you're like, Jim, I can't read a book a week, because the average person reads only about 1 or 2 books a year. But the CEO reads about 4 to 6 books a month, right? So you want to get to about a book a week. So remember, first you make your habits, and then your habits make you. Design the first hour a day to be brain friendly, and you'll win the rest of it.
Killing ants is actually clinically proven to be good for your brain. Now, I get this term from Dr. Daniel Amen. I highly recommend his work. He wrote Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. He says ANTS stands for automatic negative thoughts. Automatic negative thoughts. That's the negative thoughts that say, I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm just too old, right? And so here's the thing. Your brain is like a supercomputer, and your self-talk is a program it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering people's names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet, because you program your supercomputer not to. People come to me and they say, Jim, I have a horrible memory. And I say, stop. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. So you want to keep it positive. You want to keep it encouraging. Even if you say something negative, check yourself. And self-awareness is a superpower. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how good are your thoughts? There's a learning curve, but there's also a forgetting curve. Science is saying that within 2 days, just 48 hours of listening to a podcast, reading a book, going to a conference, getting a coaching, 80% of it, up to 80% is lost.
Incredible.
And that's, as somebody who's investing time, energy, treasure into something, to lose all that, so you want to be able to hold that on. Okay. And so one of the ways of doing it is by taking notes. And we did a whole episode on proper note taking, and really one that's more brain friendly. Okay. Most people, and what they found is the worst way of taking notes actually is verbatim.
Which is the way I take notes.
Yeah, verbatim,
I used to.
full transcription. And they study this, at universities, because they test people, get people to take word for word. And one of the reasons why is because there's just so much information, right? You have 18 pages of word for word. You don't even know what's most important. But they found the best way of actually taking notes were more on keywords and relevancy. So for example, one of the ways of taking notes that I recommend is taking a piece of paper and putting a line straight down the page. Okay. And on the left side, what I'm doing is I'm capturing information. Okay. Capturing. So we could talk about how to remember names and how to read faster and how to learn skills faster, how to change your habits. That would be on the left-hand column. You're capturing information. Okay. But on the right side, instead of capturing, you're creating. What does that mean? It means that you're creating and you're building on this. You're putting your impression. So essentially on the left side, you're taking notes, but on the right side, you're making notes. And there's a clear distinction, right, between just capturing information and actually create the creative process.
Why does that matter?
It matters because if you're, first of all, for focus. A lot of people, when they're listening to something, their mind will go somewhere else. They'll get distracted. So here, instead of it going somewhere else, it goes on the right side of the page, which is, let's say, left side, right brain. Left brain, right brain. Left brain is more logical and words and language and linear. But on the right side is your imagination, it's your creativity. So your creativity could go there. The other thing is it forces you to ask questions.
There can be a lot of shiny objects around, especially if you are working from home or you're traveling and there's things that in your environment, there's interruptions. And so what can you do in order to mute distractions? And it's never going to be perfect. That's never the goal, because things happen, because that's like life. Sometimes learning and life happens to be messy. But what can you do to be able to mute distractions to the best of your ability? Does it have to do with turning off your phone? Maybe you're turning off the alerts on your phone. Maybe you're doing certain deep work and focused work. You want to put a sign on your door, or you're telling family members or friends, please do not disturb me, that even though I am here, I am working at this time, and you're mitigating distractions. And so that's what I mean about mute, because your brain primarily is a deletion device. It's trying to keep distractions out. It's trying to keep noise out. And you're only letting in the things that really matter. And to the best you could stand guard to the doors of what's going inside your mind and what's going to your attention, and really get things done quickly. I always tell people that self-love and self-care is not selfish. A lot of people, they're there for their friends and their family and their clients and everybody else, but they're not refilling their cup. So I think that we have to be grow givers, meaning we grow so we have more to give to other people, so we have more impact with other individuals. So the behaviors are reading each day and putting together your to-do list, and I think having your not to-do list is so important. Having been sleep deprived for so many years, I think a lot of people, I'm super sensitized to it, but I think one of the success rituals people should have is just going through and keeping a consistent not to-do list. And I think the most successful genius level individuals, one of the clues that they leave is their not to-do list is bigger than their to-do list, right? They don't check their phone in the morning. They don't take in, everything is hell yes or it's hell no, right? That's their filter system. They don't, they say no to good so they can say yes to great. When it comes to your workspace, certain activities that you do repeatedly gets anchored to that place, meaning the state of mind, the mood of your mind and your body, your feelings get anchored to, those activities get anchored to the context. Often what the context is gives you more of your content. I talk about in the Quick Recall Memory Improvement Program, which again, if you haven't gone through, I highly suggest it. It's usually a starting point for all our programs, because if you can't remember anything, how are you going to do well in your productivity, right? I believe I forgot are the two most costly productivity in the human language. I forgot to do it. I forgot to bring it. I forgot that meeting. I forgot that person's name. I forgot what I was going to say. You lose time and energy and effort and performance. And so the starting point when we talk about our memory really is that, certain memory is state dependent, meaning that when you imagine this, they did a study where they took subjects, they submerged them underwater and gave them a list of words to memorize. And they had a breathing apparatus and they had to memorize and study these words. And then they quizzed them. And they quizzed them both out of water, and then they put them underwater again and quizzed them again. In which environment do you think they remembered more? Underwater. Because learning it underwater, that setting got anchored to the information. And so when they went back underwater, it helped trigger some of the memories. And that makes sense, right? So if you can if you study in the room that you have to be tested in, that would be a little bit of an advantage, right? Or if you rehearse for a play on the stage, you're more likely to remember it because you get anchored and triggered by the environment. They provide contextual cues to remind you of what you need to say or do.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Brendan Burchard, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Have you ever struggled to be more disciplined? You know you got that paper due next week, but you don't do anything all week, even though you know it's coming? Or you set up a brand new habit that you're so excited about that you know can improve your life, your relationships,